What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. I hope everybody enjoyed their Christmas time, whether you celebrated or not. Spent time with some family or friends and had a good time. I know I have, and that's why I've been kind of sporadically uploading here and there. I just haven't had a whole lot of time because I've been spending a lot of time with friends and family over the weekend, and I probably will be this weekend as well. So let's just move on from it. Let's go ahead and talk about the topic of today's video. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to develop wide receivers in Madden. Now, this is just building off of our previous videos. I could definitely do a wide receiver hidden gems video in this on this game. I know that I've done one earlier this season, but we'll go ahead and do another one. I'll add that to the list. But let's talk about how to develop wide receivers. And the reason that I am in this specific franchise that I'm in, which was my Bengals franchise that you guys have probably seen a little bit of on the channel. I had a specific question on what attributes matter most for receivers, and so I'm going to go over that with you guys in here today, because these receivers I have developed over a couple seasons, and I've gotten them up to be, extremely useful for me. And they might not be exactly what you think. Obviously, John Ross starts off as like a 75 overall with normal potential. I have him up to an 83 with superstar potential, and he's not a particularly big receiver or anything like that. None of his physical stature stands out or anything like that. He's kind of average size, but he's got good speed, and there's some other traits there that I'm going to go over that kind of explain why I'm using him the way I am. Same thing with KJ Hamler. KJ Hamler is not a big body receiver. He's actually pretty short at 5'9". And then, in addition to that, Ryan Switzer, who led the league in receiving last year, is only 5'8", 185. And so you might be wondering, well, what am I looking for in receivers? Because I'm using all these short guys, they can't go up and get balls over top of other players. Well, that's just, we have to discuss what the role is of each receiver in your offense, and we have to discuss how you're using your offense, how you're throwing the ball, and stuff like that. So if you're throwing the ball downfield more, deep passing plays and everything like that, yeah, it might be to your benefit to have big body receivers that can go up and get the ball over top of defenders and stuff like that. However, that's not the case with my type of offense. I do a lot of short passing in my offense. I do a lot of, quick cuts and, in routes, out routes, slant routes, curl routes, stuff like that, where I need more agile receivers, guys that can run their routes and get in and out of their cuts and breaks quickly. And so that is what I'm looking for when I develop receivers. And that's what you'll see with Ryan Switzer, who in this franchise, I will show you his stats just to justify and explain what I did. So he had 2,000 yards receiving for me. This is a guy that you guys might never think could be a productive receiver in the game. He starts out as like a 71 or a 72 overall, and I have him up to, I believe it's an 81 or 82 superstar as a wide receiver, and he just plays out of my slot. And the reason he is so successful is because he plays that slot role and does it effectively. Now, that's where I talk about what you need to get out of each of your roles in your offense. Your outside receivers are going to be running deeper routes for the most part. So they need to be able to have a little bit of ability to run and get off of defenders deep within their routes, 10, 15 yards downfield. However, the guy that's playing in your slot needs to be able to get off of his defender, and he needs to be able to get open within 5 yards. He needs to be quick. He needs to have good acceleration, and he has to have good release and good route running. And that's pretty much actually how I utilize all of my receivers. Is I try and develop route running, because the better their route running is, the more they're going to be able to get off of their defender. Even a guy with good route running that has slow speed is going to generate separation from their defender because of their quick cuts. The better their route running is, the more easily they're going to generate space when they cut, and maybe they cut on a slant or something like that. They're going to break before the defender does, and the better their route running is, the better they're going to be able to do that. On top of that, the better their acceleration is, the quicker they're able to do that. And so that's what I'm looking for in my receivers. I'm looking for good route running, good release, and good acceleration. If they have good release, good route running, good acceleration, I know that they'll be able to generate separation and get open for me, because that's the biggest thing in Madden. A lot of times you'll have difficulty with your receivers catching the ball in general, even if they're open. And so you need to be able to develop, you need to be able to generate space between your receiver and the defender if you want your guy to be able to catch the ball for the most part. Unless you have, a superstar, an X Factor, that can catch it in traffic 9 times out of 10, you're more than likely going to be trying to get guys that can generate separation. And so that's what I have in Ryan Switzer. You can see I've developed him to a point where he has 93 acceleration. He's got good catching. He doesn't have very good catch in traffic stats or anything like that. He is not going to have good spec catch, only 86. So, he's not going up and getting balls for me or anything like that, but he's got good short route running, good medium route running, which is what my offense is focused on. He's got good agility. He's got good release, which means he's able to get open. He's able to generate separation. He's able to get off of his defender without too much trouble. And I'm able to get him the ball in, within 3 or 4 seconds. I don't have to sit there and wait for routes to develop. I don't have to wait for people to get open because they're going to get open based on their stats. Likewise, let's take a look at John Ross and how I've developed him. Now, he obviously has 97 speed, so that helps get separation. The faster your player is, the more easily they're going to get separation, obviously. If I have a 97 speed receiver going against a 90 speed cornerback, he just by default has an advantage. Now, what you want to develop with a guy like that is you want to develop their route running and their release, because if they're getting pressed at the line of scrimmage or they're getting jammed up, that speed doesn't take effect. You're not going to have the opportunity to utilize that speed. So you need to be able to get off of that defender and then utilize that speed advantage in the open field. So that's what I did with John Ross. I developed his release up to an 81. I developed his route running, deep route running specifically, to an 87. And so he's able to get off of defenders and then utilize that speed to his advantage. So once he gets away from the defender, he's able to create space because of his speed. And then same thing with KJ Hamler, who I drafted. He's now up to 79 with Superstar. He has pretty much similar stats. He's got good speed, good acceleration, but I've developed his release and his route running so that he can get open off of those defenders. So those are the things that I'm looking for in terms of actually developing my receivers. I'm not specifically looking for size in a receiver. I don't care how tall they are, to be honest with you, because the way I run my offense is I throw to the open man. I'm not throwing to somebody to get a jump ball or anything like that. I'm not throwing to somebody who needs to climb over a defender to catch the ball. I'm throwing to guys that are open, and in order for guys to get open, they have to be like Ryan Switzer. Not tall, not anything like that. The size doesn't matter to me. They have to have decent speed, good acceleration, good release, and good route running. That's what's going to cause them to get open. I don't even need 90 catching out of my receiver. Obviously, he doesn't have good catch in traffic. He doesn't have good spec catch. If he's open, he will catch the ball most of the time. So I don't need that 90 catching rating. What I'm looking for in him is those quick cuts, being able to get in and out of his breaks and run his routes effectively so that he can get open and I can throw him the ball. And like I said, I'll show you his stats. He had 2,000 yards receiving for me last season. We're halfway through this season. He has 543 yards. You can pick up a guy like Ryan Switzer and turn him into a superstar wide receiver. You don't need somebody that's, a freak athletically or anything like that. And certainly it helps to have a guy like John Ross that has speed that can stretch the field for me a little bit. But you look at his stats, and I don't even overuse him. Last season I had 880 yards with him. This season I do have 930 yards with him. But what you're seeing is that I'm utilizing more the guy that's able to get open, which is simply Ryan Switzer. And you have to know what your player's role is in your offense. So I highly recommend that you find somebody that can run the slot wide receiver role. Now, I'm going to hop over to my other franchise and show you guys a little bit of what I do in that franchise to try and get my receivers open, because I'm playing as the Bills, and they don't have very good receivers. So what you want to see is I actually play my best receiver out of the slot in this offense. And the reason being is that you need your slot wide receiver to be able to get open. So John Brown is going to be my slot wide receiver in this offense. And the thing with that is that if you look at his stats, he's going to be very similar to a Ryan Switzer type. He's got 92 speed. He's got good acceleration at 89, which is, it's kind of subpar, but it's all right. He's got the best release on my team at 78, and he's got good route running. And so he's able to get open for me, and I'm able to pass him the ball. I wouldn't want to put a guy like what is his name? Robert Foster, I believe it is. I wouldn't want to put a guy like Robert Foster in the slot, even though he has good speed and good catching and everything like that, because he's not going to be able to run his routes quickly and effectively. He's not going to get off the guy that's covering him. He's only got 71 release. He's just simply not very agile or anything like that. So he's more of a deep type of receiver for me, an outside type of receiver. And same thing with Isaiah McKenzie. He's a good player, but I've noticed that he gets pressed off the ball and doesn't get off of his defender very much. And the reason being is that his route running isn't very good and his release isn't very good. Sure, he's got other good stats, good speed, good catching, everything like that. But he can't get open for me. And so I need more time for him to develop his routes, and therefore he's more of an outside receiver for me as opposed to John Brown, who can quickly develop his route, quickly get off a defender, and get open for me. So John Brown is the guy that I'm going to utilize as my number one, which is actually my slot receiver. I utilize my slot receiver as my number one receiver in my offense. So that's what I'm looking for in developing my receivers. Now, how do I develop my receiver? Let's go back to that other franchise. I actually don't focus train my receivers at all. What you'll see in this YouTube Duel League with the Bengals, I don't specifically train these guys. I haven't specifically trained John Ross or Ryan Switzer or anything like that. I simply develop these guys based on the receiving yardage that they get. I don't put XP towards my receivers at all, because the reason being is that these guys progress well if you get them the ball and get them good yardage and get them touchdowns. I've never had an issue developing a receiver that I need to develop just by getting them the ball. And as you guys can see, it does work effectively. Ryan Switzer starts out as like a 75 overall. I got him the ball and he turned into a superstar. 82 overall. John Ross, I've gotten the ball over a couple of seasons. He's up to an 83 with superstar. He obviously starts as a mid-70s player. And then KJ Hamler I drafted. I believe he had star potential this season, and he was like a 75 when I drafted him. He's up to a 79 with superstars. So you just have to get your receivers the ball. And in order to get them the ball, they have to get open. And in order for them to get open, they need to have those specific stats that I've talked about. You don't need to focus train them or anything like that. If you did choose to focus train them, just find the drill that's going to give your wide receivers XP over whatever other positions, like I've gone over in the other videos. But that's pretty much all there is to it for wide receivers for me. That's kind of what I like to do. That's how I get guys open and pass them the ball a lot. So hopefully that helps you guys out in some way and maybe gives you guys something to try out. If it does, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for more, and comment down below with what you guys would like to see next. I'll see you guys in the next video.